Hi, today I'm going to show you how to make a cradled panel to paint on. This is a cradled panel, and you can paint directly on the panel. You should probably prime it first, or you can wrap it in canvas, as I do. I'm going to make this cradled panel out of wood that was cut at the hardware store at Home Depot. Right now, while we're in quarantine, it's a little hard to get to the art store. It's also more expensive, and so having wood cut at Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever your local hardware store is a really convenient way to do this, and will also save you a lot of money in the long run. So I had panels cut to 36 by 48 inches, that's about 3 by 4 feet. And that's just because that's the biggest size that will fit in my car. I have a Prius. That is also this size. So when you buy a canvas from the art store, it's often this kind of a canvas. I'm not exactly sure what you call this, but it's not on a panel. It's just canvas stretched over a frame. And as you can see, it's very soft in the middle. That's a perfectly fine way to paint, but for those of us who can't be trusted with fragile things, having a hard surface to paint on is safer, because canvases get dented really easily, and I tend to kind of schlep things around the studio and things get damaged. So anyway, I'm going to start with this panel on the table here. I already have this wood cut to the correct size. This panel, by the way, they cut for me at Home Depot. You can just ask an employee there to cut it to whatever size you need. And then these 1x2s, as they're called, I cut myself at the grad studios. They may actually do this for you at Home Depot as well. I'm not entirely sure. It's important that you cut this wood at 45-degree angles, like this. And that is important because although you can make a frame using just flat cuts, it's just a matter of physics. You want the two 45-degree angles to be pushing evenly on one another, whereas if you have just two flat pieces together like this, two sides of the frame are going to be doing all the work, and it's just going to make for a less sturdy frame. Okay, so I already have this wood cut very conveniently. I'm just going to use some hardware store wood glue and use this pretty generously to apply all along one side of this, and then also I'm going to apply it to both of the 45-degree angles here, and then lay that down along the edge. It doesn't have to be perfect right away. I'm going to glue all 4 of these pieces before I clamp them down, because these should be pretty accurately cut, but sometimes there's a little discrepancy between the cut of the panel and the beams. So here's one of the 36-inch pieces. Applying glue. About this much, it's like, because it's wood and it's porous, it does get sort of soaked in. You can be pretty generous with the amount of glue you use. All right. Again, I'm just kind of laying that down there for a minute in the approximate place. And By the way, at the hardware store, they have like, there are different qualities of wood you can buy. I think this is actually the cheapest kind. And because, sorry, I'm just going to step in front of the camera a minute here. But I'm just doing the same thing on every side. I don't think it's very important that that the wood be the highest quality wood. There are, like, once you make a panel like this and then cover it in canvas, it's pretty sturdy and it's pretty unlikely to warp. So I don't think that, you know, I mean, these beams were probably like, I don't know, maybe it's like $1.50 a foot or something. Okay, putting that last one down. All right, and so now that every piece has glue on it and everything's generally in the right place, I'm going to grab some clamps to hold it down while the glue dries. I've got sort of an assortment of different clamps here. Again, these are all hardware store things. So I have some clamps like this. I also have some clamps like this of various sizes. I don't even know where half these things came from. I've kind of collected them over time. And I'm going to go around and just make sure that the angles are matched up nicely and that everything is kind of flush with the edges. And then when I think it's pretty secure, I'll put a clamp. Sometimes the wood isn't that straight, like either your panel will be slightly warped or the beams are a little bit bowed. And you know, you can try to be as picky as you can when you're buying the wood, but ultimately once it's stored in your studio for a little bit of time, everything kind of bends and you end up having to wrestle it into place a little bit while you do this, but you can, there's sort of some wiggle room. Like, don't worry too much if things are slightly warped or slightly bowed. A lot of it will get straightened out in the gluing process. Okay. Now I'm going to put this guy on the other side. I think if I had to choose, I prefer these sorts of clamps. Those ones, because they just go on so quickly. These guys, you know, it just takes more time to screw it into place. All right, and then once that's done, the final step is to glue in these, what do you call them? I guess I would call them corner braces. So similar to, well, here's a smaller example. These corner braces are actually just sort of a safety in this case because the panel is going to keep it in a square. And normally these corner braces are what keep the square from kind of, you know, warping or skewing as you stretch the canvas. But I feel better about putting them in, even if it's a little bit of overkill. So for a 36 by 48 frame like this, I cut 17-inch corner braces. That's kind of a number that I just picked because I kind of eyeballed these and that seemed like about the right size for these corners. Okay, so I am not going to glue the whole edge here. I'm really only going to glue the diagonal edges. And these are again cut at 45-degree angles. Okay. And I'm just going to do the same thing with the other two sides. And what you'll end up with once the glue has dried is something like this. Let's see. These are all glued into place, and it's pretty sturdy right now. And what I was told when I was in school and I learned to make canvases is that the wood glue is really strong enough that it should hold it in place. But I always feel better about just putting a couple finishing nails in each corner to really keep it sturdy. So once that's all dry, then you can either prime the front of this and paint on that, or you can wrap it in canvas. So tune in next time and I'll show you how to stretch the canvas over it.